Greetings, travelers. The following episode has a special guest, which sometimes means they say things that might be controversial. We also have some audio difficulties, but we think it's worth your trip. Listener discretion is advised. Hello, I'm author Mark Muncy,
And I'm author Erika Lance.
and this is Eerie Travels. Greetings, travelers.
Greetings, travelers. I'm going to be
Oh,
musical this whole month, Mark.
because it's the haunted holidays,
It
right?
is.
We're getting near the end, though. Yule has come.
This is the day after, I think. This airs the day after the stolen holiday that involves.
The day after solstice. We made it, through all the holidays. I think there's still a couple. Kwanzaa and a couple others are still coming.
I was going to say, we haven't made it through all the holidays, which means.
No, we still got New Year's coming too. But I will say, we did our episode on holiday movies, and I had brought up Bernard and the Genie as like one of my favorites. A guy who finds a genie and all that. Well, what's funny is Peacock Network remade that with Alan Cumming again, but this time instead of him as the guy who finds the genie, he's playing the bad guy part that Rowan Atkinson played in the original. And it's got a whole new cast. It's been updated for modern times, and it's just called Genie. I got a few letters from travelers who said, hey, this sounded an awful lot like this movie Genie. I'm like, oh, that's because it's a remake.
I feel like the travelers were saying, hey, Mark, you're old and not paying attention to modern movies in modern times. Is that what's happening?
That is quite possible. That is quite possible. But so, yes, gang, you can watch that for your streaming pleasure if you prefer to have Melissa McCarthy instead of the classic BBC movie with Rowan Atkinson.
Well, as we have discussed on many occasions, I think it warrants watching both because the British version of things and the American version of things can be very different, but yet pleasing to the eye.
Oh, yeah, as we discussed on Ghosts. So
yes, well, we're going to have a whole episode on our favorite ghost TV shows and movies here shortly.
All right, enough of this bantering because we have a special guest who's been waiting patiently in our exorbitant green room, and we're probably running out of M&Ms very quickly back there. So I wanted to have this gentleman on. He and I go way back. We've talked many a time. We've presented several things together. We once both judged a Bigfoot call contest at a convention, Sci-Fi Bartow, actually. And that was a blast. But this is the man, the myth, the legend tripper, Robert Robinson.
Welcome, Robert.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for having me on the show.
Of course, as you heard from our great studio audience cheering behind that's outside of the green room, Mark, you're just making up places now. I'm just saying.
That's in my mind, that's how it should be working. Beau, throw in some like laugh track and stuff here.
I will, and I'll put more M&Ms in the green room too.
All right, thanks.
You gotta go into that. It's terrifying. Robert, can you because I already know Mark's gonna fanboy, which he does when he has people he admires like you on the show. He has a problem. Would you tell us a little bit about you and your background and how you got into legend tripping?
Okay. I grew up an Army brat. My dad was in the military. My mother is from Edinburgh, Scotland. I went to, grew up, basically all over the world. Joined the Army right out of high school. Served for over 21 years. Retired in 2003.
Thank you for your service.
I now teach when I'm not out legend tripping. I teach JROTC at Ridge Community High School in Davenport, Florida. As far as legend tripping, I got into it at the early age of having a movie, scare the crap out of me called The Legend of Boggy Creek. Went to the drive-in with the family, didn't know what it was. Saw the movie, saw that it was a true story. Started going to school and asking about it. Come to find out there's other legends out there, Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, and other things. And I read some books, Ivan T. Sanderson, and some other stuff. And I just kind of been I wouldn't say as much as a passion, it's just definitely something that I enjoy researching. I didn't really get serious. I mean, I was pretty much just a person that used to read stuff and go look at stuff. I didn't really get into it till after I retired. And of course, then in the military, you don't really have enough time, unfortunately, to go do a lot of stuff you want to do. But I got into it right when I retired down here in Florida. I hooked up with some people, the BRFO with Matt Moneymaker and them to go on some Bigfoot hunts, some other investigators. My wife had an interest in the paranormal, so I would go on ghost hunts with her, and then she would go out, in the woods with me looking for the skunk ape. Here in Florida, that's what we call a Bigfoot here. And just had an interest. I also had an interest in ufology, extraterrestrials and stuff like that. I was a big fan of the TV show In Search Of. That was another show that kind of fueled my interest. And I got the idea to write a book from Charlie Carlson, the author of Weird Florida. He had invited me to come up and do some presentations. And at the end of the presentation, when me and him were talking, he says, you need to put that in, take what you do and put it into a book. So my first book, Legend Tripping, Ultimate Family Adventure, I had the wrong publisher. She didn't really understand what it was that we were trying to do. And the book was a disaster. Thank God, I don't think there's that many copies of it out there. But David Hatcher Childress, one of the hosts on the TV show Ancient Aliens, he has a publishing firm called Adventures Unlimited Press. He somehow got a hold of the book, and he called me and said, Robert, I got your book Legend Tripping. And I said, I like it, but you missed the mark on it. I said, I know, I didn't have the right publisher. He goes, well, we need to redo it. And I got a publishing company here. I need you to rewrite it. Let's take some of this stuff out about parenting and all that, because people didn't pick up your book to read about parenting. They want to know about legends. They want to know where to go, what to do, what to take with them, and some little tips and stuff. So with his help, I rewrote it, and he with his company, we published it, and it did really well. And after a while, he came back to me and said, okay, your book's doing good. What are you going to do for a second one? And I said, wow, I didn't really think about a second one, So he said, well, you call me back in about 5 minutes and tell me what you're going to do. I went, oh, 5 minutes, huh? So I sat here, in fact, in this very chair, I'm sitting here thinking, man, what, I did a legend trivia about the United States. I said, well, the only thing, popped in my head was the world. I was thinking maybe I should hit another country, but I said, why not just do the whole world? And I called him up. I said, what about international legend trivia? He said, fine, get writing. He said, use your first book as a format. He says, but then I'm going to throw some ideas at you, certain things I want you to look at, like mermaids. I call them aquatic humanoids in my book, but I was really surprised how many legends of these, underwater humanoids are these things are seen all over the world,
Yeah.
And people really believe, in the mermaid legend. Dogman has become very popular. And I get always asked, what's the difference between Dogman and a werewolf? Well, a werewolf is a human that turns into a wolf, whereas a Dogman seems to be a bipedal canine type cryptid. So I was surprised to find out how many places this animal has been seen all over the world. And of course, Bigfoot. Bigfoot's not just the United States. You got the Yeti in the Himalayas. You got the Yeren that's seen in China. You got the Alma or Almista, which is seen over in Scandinavia. England has a legend of the big green man, which some people may, think actually may be a Bigfoot. Down in all parts of South America, these things are seen. And then there's some places that don't hardly, believe in it. China pretty much has said, yeah, well, we have one. Back to the books. I went on a tangent there.
We have no idea what that's like.
Yeah, I have no idea being on a podcast with Mark what it's like to go on tangents at all, because he never does that.
Well, let's say I call it a guidebook. I call it a fully illustrated guidebook on how to go look for legends. I had my son. I said, if you were to come up and ask me about what questions would you ask me? So, well, what is Bigfoot, Dad? Where is Bigfoot seen? Where do you go look for Bigfoot? Where do I go on the internet to find out about Bigfoot? What do I take with me to go look for Bigfoot? What should I be careful of so I use that as what my son kind of came to me as the guidebook for all kinds of stuff. I touch in the legend tripping about looking for lost treasure. I'm surprised that every country has different laws about looking for treasure. Like in Egypt, you're not allowed to go treasure hunting in Egypt. It's against
Not
the law.
anymore.
Yeah, because Britain really pretty much raped Egypt of a lot of its buried treasure out there. All the stuff, the pharaohs and all the mummies and all that stuff. So, yeah, it's pretty much you're not allowed to go out there and do any of that. But like I said, it's something that I enjoy. And Lyle Blackburn once told me, he said, "You don't write a book to make money.
No.
You write a book to share your passion with people. You want people to read the book and want to go out and do that stuff. Not, writing a book is not about becoming a millionaire. It's about, sharing your passion with other people."
No, totally. And I can say that 1,000-fold for many reasons that I wish people would pay attention to that. So I think it's unique, and I know Mark's going to jump in with questions, but what I think is unique is it's a how-to guide, because we get asked a lot from travelers about doing things, and we always warn people, like, we're not experts at all. And we know just enough to be dangerous at Trivial Pursuit with a lot of the stuff that we know. And when I hear people want to get into this, I'm like, there are so many dangers, not just because of the creatures themselves, but going into certain environments and things like that you don't just, grab a tent and go off in search of Dogman. Like, that's not a good plan. Let's call that not plan A or B, So I think it's very interesting you chose to approach it from that perspective. I know you said your son gave you a lot of questions, but did you have a lot of experiences where you're like, okay, don't ever do this? Like, I did this thing, don't ever do it.
Absolutely. In fact, I always say don't go in the woods by yourself. And when you do go in the woods, don't ever think, it's just going to be a day trip. When I go out, I have a backpack in case something should happen and I get stuck out there and I'm out there for the night. I am able to take care of myself. I have been out with many people at the beginning who just thought, oh, yeah, we're just going to go out for the day, walk around, and got lost. And now they're stuck out there for the night. I tell people, like, when they're doing paranormal investigations, if the place is off limits, don't go in there. It's against the law. You're breaking the law. There are plenty of places out there that you can go and do a paranormal investigation and not break the law. Because it's nothing worse than breaking into a place and then all of a sudden the police show up. Well, your whole legend trip has just come to a screeching halt right there. And of course, you're going to get fined. You may get arrested depending on, the location that you're at. I try to stress, because I have a lot of young kids starting to get into this, and I never touch on, the whole demonology and stuff like that. I leave that alone. I mean, that to me isn't legend trip. That's something entirely different. I do say, if you're taking kids out with a ghost hunt, just be careful, because things happen and it can really mess with the kid, because, they see something and then, it can mess with them for the rest of their lives, where they may not be able to totally understand it. Whereas a teenager would be better. I always say, don't ever take young kids on a ghost hunt. Teenagers are okay, but not young kids.
No, I agree. And I think some young kids can be very interested, and children surprise us, but don't do it because you want to do it. Do it because some reason they said they want to do it, and start off on baby steps. You know what I mean? Because otherwise, yeah, you could, because you never know what's going to happen, regardless of the legends or anything like that. Just life can be very interesting in a lot of these circumstances. Mark, do you want to ask questions? Because I know it's killing you.
No, I just want to say, yeah, Robert, when we first met, your first book had just come out, and we were talking about various places you had visited here in Florida. And you had done a recent tour with, I believe, David Sidoti of the Independent Sasquatch Research Team. And that's when I was like, hey, I'm 50 with epilepsy and I can't go on these trips, but you guys can. And I would love to, to team up with you all. And I got to go with David on a trip, but I never got to go with you on a trip. I felt bad about that. But David was showing me places you guys had visited just the week before. and we're showing, signs of stuff. So when you go out hunting, what signs do you look for, let's say, a Bigfoot or a skunk ape?
Well, obviously, the first thing you look for is footprints. You look to see if branches have been broke down and formed some kind of a structure. Again, we haven't figured out what it is. When we're out and about, we do the wood knocks to see if anything responds. A funny story, one night I was out with some ghost hunters over in the Green Swamp, and I did a wood knock, and sure enough, we heard another wood knock. I said, oh my goodness, we got something. So I did it again. And another thing, we got it again. And I was like, huh. So I got on the phone and I texted Dave Sadati and I said, hey, what are you guys, what are you doing? Are you out, what are you up to? He goes, hey, I'm out here, man. I said, we just got some interaction. I just hit a wood knock and I had another wood knock come back. I said, hold on a second. And I hit it again. He goes, oh. I said, did you just hear one? He goes, yeah, I just heard it. I said, dude, I think that's me. I said, I want you to do a wood knock, Dave. And he did one. I said, dude, we're on the other side of the Green Swamp. It was funny. He got a kick out of it too. But I mean, it was just one of those rare occurrences where he was out with his group and I was out with my group on the other side.
And the skunk ape is watching both of you just shaking its head.
Yeah.
Well, I always say that about when people do their screams. I always, in my mind, picture like when you walk up to a cat and go, meow, the cat just looks at you like, what are you doing? What are you doing? You trying to sound like us? And I really think that these animals, the skunk apes, are doing the same thing when we're out there, and they're like, is that a human trying to imitate us? I think so. Let's see where this goes, So, I mean, that's my own personal thing. I don't think these animals, I think they know the difference between them and a human trying to imitate.
I think that's very true. It's interesting because it's kind of like everything else that we try to imitate, like duck sounds and stuff. I know some people have gotten really good at that, right? The duck noise, but no. And I think they're very they evade us all the time. They are very highly intelligent creatures. So you've got to think they're sitting around going, hey, I got a good idea. You know what we should do? Let's bend down all these branches in a weird shape and tie them. And then we're going to let the humans guess what that means. Let's go.
Yeah.
You got to wonder if they have any degree of practical joking going on with them.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I do agree with your statement that they are very intelligent. I mean, look at them. They've been able to avoid man all this time. And I, made a comment about experts. I always, so are you an expert on Bigfoot? I said, no. In fact, I don't think there is actually an expert out there. And the reason I say that, I said, let's use Jane Goodall as an example. Yeah. Jane Goodall is an expert on gorillas. You go up to Jane and say, Jane, I need you to show me gorillas. Jane can show you gorillas. Now you come up to me and say, Rob, you're an expert on skunk ape. Show me a skunk ape. I'm not going to be able to show you a skunk ape. I can show you where the sightings and stuff. I consider myself, along with Mark there, I consider some very top researchers, but I don't consider myself an expert on this animal because I can't produce one.
Yeah, no, I'm glad actually. We love when people say that because in a lot of the preternatural field, as Mark kind of eloquently brought up, Shirley Jackson said it, preternatural stuff, we just don't know what it is. To say you're an expert on it when we don't know what it is completely, like we have some ideas, some guesses, but we don't know what it is kind of silly. It's kind of like ghost hunting. You could be familiar with it. You could have done a lot of research, but that doesn't mean you're an expert at it.
No, you could be experienced at it, but expert.
Yes. Like I said, I go look for other stuff in other states and I have to talk to a lot of people. I do listen. But unfortunately, I have also ran into people who I believe are not telling the truth about what they really saw.
Right.
The hoaxing. Sad to say that, somebody said, well, give me out of 10 people, how many do you really believe saw something? And the sad part is, at this point in time, I'd say 2 out of 10.
Wow.
When Finding Bigfoot was down in Maika, I was down there. I could, I could just sense people that were just trying to get on TV. The people that I have run into, and I've run into some who saw something they couldn't explain. And the thing about it, I'm really impressed with, is they can tell you everything they did that day down to a T. And when you ask them a question, at no time do they go, let me think. They have the answer. You know, this lady saw it over in the Crystal River. I mean, every question I asked, there was none of that. Well, let me think about it. I wasn't looking in that. She knew it. I mean, she could tell me everything. When she got up that morning, I mean, the detail is just, and the gentleman that saw it in 2012 out in the Green Swamp, same thing, the detail. Because, when these people really see this thing, I believe it's a life-changing event for them. Because, in their mind growing up, they're told there's no such thing as the boogeyman. There's nothing under the bed. There's nothing in the closet. There's no monsters in the woods. And lo and behold, they see this large, hairy, man-like looking creature who is very scary looking. I've never had anybody who I believe saw it told me they thought, oh, it looked like a nice little big teddy bear. They thought the thing was very menacing. Had a very, menacing look on its face. So that messes with you. Your mind's going through like, holy cow, they're real.
And it is, it's you can tell the people it's literally shaken their core, and it changes them. It really does. And that's why people go, oh, I don't believe, I don't believe, I've never seen it, and I don't know anybody who has. I'm like, yeah, it's true. 9 times out of 10, nobody has, but it's those ones that do see it, and it shakes them. And when we interview them or we talk to them, it's a whole new ball game. And that goes for ghosts, that goes for UFOs, that goes for any of the, the preternatural stuff.
Yeah. And I think also, to your point, is what is behind doing it. I think a lot of people that talk to us, at least, are travelers out there. We're some of the first people they've ever told this story to, because they didn't want people to think they were crazy in what they saw. Or somebody said, hey, you should tell Eerie Travels your story, right? And we share them, and if people want to remain anonymous, we do that. But I think that's part of it. The people that run and go, oh, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, that was really quick. That was quick to jump to that.
Well, I had a lady we interviewed one time over at the during the Finding Bigfoot, and she made a comment. She was driving home late at night, and by this place called Horse Creek, and the animal walked out in front of her over to the other side, and went over a fence, and she pulled over, and she got out of her car, and she went down there to look where it was at. And I was like, were you by yourself? Oh, yes. I said, did you have anything with you, like a gun or something? And they said, oh, no. And I said, you didn't have any problem getting out of the car, going down there to look at this thing? Oh, no. I said, well, I don't believe you. I'm sorry. I really don't. Because nobody in the right mind would go do something like that, Well, I wasn't scared. I said, I'm telling you right now, I wouldn't have done that. Especially, you said you didn't, you told me you didn't even have a flashlight. You're walking in an area without a flashlight. I said, that doesn't make any. But I did go out to that area, and I did go look around. And I was walking around the fence line over by the creek. And then I was coming back to the car, and I said, hey, excuse me, sir. And I looked by, and there's a guy standing at the fence. I said, oh, I just look around. Somebody said they saw something. He said, well, my cows got out the other night, almost got hit by a car. I said, really? He goes, yeah. And I said, I wonder if she just saw some cows or something and just kind of.
Or that guy looking for his cows.
Morph the story into something else. But I mean, there's a difference between a bipedal creature and a cow,
You would hope, but angles in light is all I'm gonna say.
It could have been. I don't believe it. I'm sorry. I think she got mad. She goes, you call me a liar? I said, I'm not calling you anything. I'm just telling you, I don't believe the story. I'm sorry, I don't.
If somebody is so quick, because the people I feel who have, besides people who do research and are out intentionally trying to interact with these creatures, and I'm going to say that because I hate the word hunting. I'm not a fan of the word hunting. But besides people who are intentionally doing that, I feel the majority of the stories that we've heard have what Mark said, which is that fear. This is not a pleasant experience running into most of these creatures at all. It is like our own, the people call it the lizard brain. Like our lizard brain goes, we're in danger. That core part of us goes, you're in danger. Don't do this. So nobody would be like, I'm gonna get out of my car. Let's go look. I mean, if I had my trusty shotgun and that might go get out of the car if I was that person I'm not. But if I was, maybe. But no, my lizard brain would be like, make sure the windows are rolled up and locked and get the hell out of there as soon as humanly possible.
I have talked to people who have seen it from their car, and the first thing they say is, windows up, lock the doors.
The ones that always get me are the ones that always start with, I know this sounds crazy, but and when they start it with that, that's when I go, okay, there's something to this, because those are the ones that pique my interest, because it always is something unusual about it. And that's the stuff I really like, is when there's something that doesn't make sense with the sighting. It's not a B C plot. It's like an A C D J Q plot. Something weird happened and it went in a completely different direction. And those are the ones I give actually a little more credence to, because why would you make that up? You'd want it to be, oh, I saw the thing by the side of the road, I followed it down the hill, it went into a cave, and that makes sense. But if I saw it was the weirdest thing, it was in the middle of the road, the next thing was on the side of the road, it must have taken a step, but I didn't see it. And then and it's like, those are the stories that I go, wait a minute, okay, now let's keep that going. That's why guys like you and me, where we don't just go, okay, it's just Bigfoot, it's just this, it's just that. I like when we can blur the lines and figure out, all right, there's more to this than meets the eye.
Mark, guess what we have to do?
Oh, is it break time?
It is break time.
All right, well, let's get a word from our wonderful sponsors. Greetings, travelers. Now available on Audible and other audiobook platforms, Erie, Appalachia. Join us, won't you, as we discuss creatures like the Popelick Monster, the White Fangs, the Snallygaster, the Wampus Cat, the Lizard Man of Scapore Swamp, Bunny Man Bridge, and the Ohio Grassman. All these creatures and more await you if you dare listen to Erie, Appalachia, presented by Mark Muncy, History Press, and Four Horsemen Publishing.
Destiny Beard, the lyrical soprano who will haunt your dreams. With her alluring melodies and intricate harmonies, this dark siren of wistful song shall capture your soul and lead you into the night. Check out Destiny's new single, The Haunting Is Over, with international musicians Sam Haines and Gary Bennett, as well as her other musical works at destinybeard.com.
We're back.
Yes, we're back. We are. And our guest didn't disappear, so that's always a promising thing.
Very, very good.
So, Mark, you had a whole plan on what you wanted to talk about on the second part of this episode.
Okay, yeah. So Robert, now we've kind of discussed how you kind of start. What are some of your essential items that you must take on? Let's flip gears a little bit. Instead of Bigfoot hunt, ghost hunt. What are the essential items you think?
Well, with every darn near every legend trip I go on, I have a flashlight. I also I do research of the area before I go into it. Make sure I know exactly what I'm getting myself into, especially with the paranormal. If it's a location where the owner has invited us to come in, we sit down just like they kind of do on the TV show. You go over with the owner. I'd like to do a walkthrough during the daytime and really see what the location of the place looks like. And of course, any hazards that we need to be aware of, and some stuff that, the owner doesn't want us, I don't want you guys going around this place because, this is really expensive, be aware of that. And, we honor the owner's request. If he doesn't want us to go into a certain room, we don't go there. We take my wife's got all that ghost hunting equipment, oh God, I'm drawing a blank on this stuff.
You mean like the EMF and stuff like that?
There you go, the EMF and all that. I have a little thing that I got over at Home Depot where you aim it and you can pick up temperatures.
Laser thermometer, yeah.
Yeah. What else do we go? Recorders. We always take bring out recorders and put them in a different room. We have objects that we might put a camera on to see if it moves, especially if it's in a location where there's been a lot of activity. Unfortunately, I'm one of those people. If I sit down, especially at night, I'm probably going to fall asleep. I have to get up. I can't just sit around and wait for something to happen. I've teamed up with some people, some ghost paranormal groups, and they bring out some of these really high tech equipment. The voice or the ghost box. My wife wants one of those. That's really neat how that works. So night vision goggles, which I bring that out, when I'm not looking for the big hairy guy. A thermo. I have a thermo, which doesn't hurt to have that whenever you're out. A plan. You have to have a plan where you're not stamping on each other. I have been to some ghost hunts where you have all these ghost hunters in this one location, all doing this, and you can't hear anything.
I hate those big open. All right, everybody's invited to this investigation, and 200 people show up, and it's a 3-room house. Yeah, you're going to get some EVPs, but it's not EVPs. Yeah.
Exciting, and it's great to hang out with people that have the same interest in you. But I always like it to say, well, let's let everybody out. We're going to send 2 people in at a time, and one of you keep your phone on, and we can watch you on the cameras and stuff. What I don't like is that you get to some places and the people charge you an arm and a leg to go in there.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it does happen. Like we've had a couple places, older theaters, and they want a lot of money. And it's not so much for them as they have to have one of their caretakers stay in there with you. And you're actually paying him to work overtime to babysit us in there. Because, I'll use a Tampa theater. I don't know if you've ever been in the Tampa theater.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Many times.
Oh, my God. Is that a neat looking place? I've never got to do a paranormal, but I would love to. But I understand it's not cheap because you're actually paying the caretaker to make.
Yeah, you're paying a docent to be there, after hours in most museums. You're doing that in a lot of places. Plus liability.
Yep.
Yeah. So there is a reason that some of these places charge an arm and a leg, but then there's also some that are willing to work with you if you're willing to work with them. Make sure they're getting the publicity for this, they're getting that and all that. So reach out. That's step one. Reach out, get permission,
and of course they get to see the evidence before you put it out there. That's something I always tell the owners. We will come to you, we will show you what we found. If you don't want us to put it out there, that's fine, because it is, you own the place. We did one at Bartow High School because it's a really, really old, one of the portions of the building is really, really old. And it's funny thing is the custodial workers that work there, they will go clean up that place at first thing when the kids all leave because they don't want to be there at night when it gets dark because they've heard stuff happen over there. They don't want to go to that part of the school. So I was talking to the principal. He said, I'd love to do a ghost hunt. He said, sure, here's the keys. He said, just to let you know, if anything happens, Rob, it's on you. And we got some feedback on some of the recorders that we put out. We came out of there thinking, oh yeah, there's something definitely going on. And we were the only ones in the building. There was only 5 of us. And the rest 4 of us would stay in one area while one would walk around, and he would tell us where he was going. And you could hear stuff going on in other places. He said, well, it was the wind and all that. We're inside an enclosed building. That was a neat one, And again, next morning we showed the principal what we had, and we asked if we could put it out there. And he said, yeah, go for it. I think that'd be great. Paranormal, like I said, ghost hunts, I've seen people invest a lot of money, and then all of a sudden they don't get anything, and they bought all this stuff, and they get really destroyed. I mean, when you look for a legend, it's got to be the thrill of the hunt. Why do you do it? The thrill of the hunt. When I go out looking for Bigfoot, I know darn well I'm probably not going to see anything better. These animals just don't step up there and say, oh, hi, Rob, we wait for you to come out here. Here we are. It's going to be a chance encounter. I get to see this thing, like the people I told you. But it's not going to happen unless I get out there and at least look. Same thing with ghost hunting. You're not going to experience anything unless you get out there and go. You may not experience anything that first time, but if you keep it up, eventually you're going to, it's going to pay off. And it like I said, it's enjoyable. It's just the thrill of stuff out there that we don't, science hasn't quite put their finger on. I had a scientist one time tell me, there's nothing in science that says there can't be a Bigfoot out there. It's just that we haven't found anything. He says, but we have you guys out there, and once you find it, we're going to take it away from you. We're going to take over the investigation, like they did the giant squid. You know,
Yep.
for a long time it was just a legend. When they finally found it, the scientists swooped in, and now they're studying this animal. You know, same thing with the hairy bipedal, you know, Bigfoot, the skunk ape, you know, the Falk monster, the grass man, different names, different places. I think once we get something that, you know, science is going to step in. And unfortunately, like somebody told me one time, you know, I'm not going to, you know, if I find a dead Bigfoot, I'm not going to tell anybody. Well, you know, you're going to end up telling somebody, and it's going to get back to them. And just let you know, the government by law can come take it away from you. If you have an unknown animal, they by law can come take it away from you. You can't. Oh, yes, they can. There is a law about that. You know, every state has that. An unknown animal, they have to, because they have to know what it is. If the animal is carrying any diseases or anything, they have to. I always joke with people, if I ever find a dead Bigfoot, I'm going to put it in the back of the truck and find me the nearest Wendy's, because they have a huge freezer in Wendy's. And I'm going to throw it in there, and I'm going to call all my friends, here, get over here before the government takes this away from me. You know, I'll call Jeff Muldrum, Lyle Blackburn, and say, get over here. And then, you know, government say, oh, we're taking it away from you. Oh, okay. I told all these people about it, but go ahead.
Yep.
We're taking it away from you. That's cool. I got my pictures. I'm good.
And then I can get a Dave's double while I'm on my way out. It's all good.
Okay,
Oh,
Mark, you would then consider eating from the same Wendy's that has a giant dead Bigfoot in the freezer.
It's a souvenir.
That's not how that works. That's not a thing. Okay.
All right. So, Rob, what are some of your favorite cases that you've worked on?
Like I said, those two that I talked to you about, the gentleman in Thanksgiving 2012 had walked right in front of him in the green swamp. He said, Mark, I know I've told you this.
Yeah, but let's tell the listeners.
Yeah. 2012, he was hunting, 6 o'clock in the morning out of the green swamp, which is north of Lakeland. And he was sitting in a tree stand. I had a palmetto field in front of him, and there was a light mist on the ground. Again, the sun hadn't quite got up yet. And he caught some movement walking in front of him over to his left. Oh, before that, he was sitting there playing on his phone. And he caught movement on the line. He looked over, and the thing was walking about. And at first, he thought it was another hunter. And then he looked over at it and noticed whatever it was that was walking across the field was walking very fluidly through the palmetto field, where humans have a very clumsy, you know, especially at night, or especially, you know, in the dark. And it was walking very fluid, and it wasn't carrying a gun. I said, well, did you think it was a guy in the ghillie suit? He said, no, I didn't really you know, because it was kind of a distance from where I was at. And then it stopped, and he said, that's when I could look and see it. And it had reddish brown hair. It was well over 6 foot tall, and it was sniffing the air. So he took his phone and he put on the record mode and started to film it. It seemed like just as he started filming, the thing turned around and looked right over at him. And he said a chill shot down his spine when he realized this wasn't a guy in a suit. It was a real animal. And he said the thing just looked at him, and he stopped filming because he didn't know if the thing was going to come charging at him or what. So he stopped filming and put his hand on his gun, because he didn't know what the animal was going to do. But anyway, took off running in a different direction, and which he was really relieved. And he got on the phone and he called his son and his dad, and they came running up. And the son told me that his dad was in hysterics. And he said it took him, they were trying to coax him to get him out of the tree stand. And he just was really, he was scared and he was excited, but he was just, you know, he was blabbering about it and all that stuff. So they got him home, and he went right to his room, and he laid down in his bed. I mean, it just really messed with him that much.
Yep.
And in fact, they didn't come to me for like 2 weeks after it happened. In fact, it was after Christmas vacation he came to me, and he showed me the film. And he was really hesitant to go back out there and show me where he saw it. But he said, okay, we'll go. Because he said, Dad, I'll drive, I'll go, and we'll take, you know, John Robinson and his wife out there. And he took me to the location, showed me the tree stand, and he showed me where the thing was standing. And I went over there and stood and took some pictures. My wife got on the tree stand, took some pictures. and you could see what, and showed me the film, which unfortunately is not a good quality because, again, this wasn't a setup deal where he was looking, he had everything in place. It was a flip top phone too that he had, just to let you know. And the thing actually appears further away because of the way the phone is, the way that it records than it actually was. But you can see where I stood out there where it was filmed that it was a lot taller than I was. And of course, I looked around to make sure it wasn't a fallen log or something. And he said, well, which direction did it go? It went this way. Well, we did find footprints, but unfortunately, they were all filled with water. Because again, this was a time, and they weren't. I did try to take some castings, but they didn't amount to anything. They didn't look like footprints, But again, everything I ever, every question I asked, the man had an answer. And he didn't want to go on TV. He didn't want to be interviewed on the cameras and all this. He said, I don't, this is something that I still have to come to grips with, and I'm not sure I want people giving me a hard time, telling me I'm stupid or crazy, that I didn't see what I saw. I know what I saw. I don't want people calling me a liar. And, I believe him. I really believe he saw something. I mean, and it's funny too, because his dad said, I've been out here 30 years. I've heard the stories of this thing, and you got to see it, and I didn't. 30 years he's been out, hunting this place, and, his dad didn't see it, but yet he did. One other story, we have and I know Mark knows about it, and I still like to take a shot at it, is the Wonder House in Bartow.
Yeah.
I got to go in there with the previous owner before the lady that lives there now did.
Prislin, yeah.
Yes.
We had her on the show recently.
The gentleman that lived there, he didn't really come clean, but his son was there. And his son said, yeah, we get doors that close on us and stuff. And it seemed to happen a lot when we were doing, changing stuff around the house. And I hear stories where the original owner is now haunting the place, and he doesn't like what's going on to this house. So he starts to, do stuff, make his presence known. Whereas I understand, I've only talked to the lady that lived there. I think I've talked to her twice, and she fully embraces the fact that, there may be paranormal, but again, and she doesn't want groups going in there to agitate the presence that's in there, which, that makes sense. My wife
lives there.
tells people that, I said, we're not here to cause a rift, but, you're the one who has to live with this thing, and it, us coming in can have some ramifications on whatever it is, occupying your house and stuff. But the Wonder House just looks like a haunted house. If you ever just look at it, you go, oh yeah, that place looks like a haunted house, And the story behind it is just, the German. I heard one story said he never actually got to occupy.
No, never lived there. He just kept building around. They lived in a house. They lived in a trailer like across the street the whole time. So, and
he had a lock system. And I remember the gentleman showed me. He opened up the bottom grate that had the water, and it was flooded. And he says, "We don't go in. Nobody goes down there." I said, "I don't know who would go down there." And it, and the smell that came out, it was, the water definitely was an unsafe.
Yeah, it took Crislin a long time to clear that out, and even now, it's, we were there during dry season, and it looks like something out of the Silence of the Lambs, where it puts the lotion on its skin.
Oh, it is. It is. Well, when we went, there was water in it, and I remember me and his son actually had to lift it up because the gentleman lived there. Was older gentleman stuff, because he said that's the lock system they used to flood the water out of one pond into his pond, and I guess the mechanism no longer worked anymore. It was all rusted and crap and all that. Because I asked him why he didn't have water in his pond anymore, and he explained it to me. It's all cemented in, and it's terrible. Yeah, it's one of the previous owners decided to cement it in and stuff. He's the one that filled the mirrors no longer worked anymore. Yeah, he filled the drain system. Yeah, poor Crislin's having to deal with a lot of that. And I think he's when his son told me they had doors slamming on him and stuff in there, and I was like, I know why. You've been really destroying this house, taking away some of the magic that this guy really put into it.
I have a question for you. Is there anywhere you've been that you won't go back to?
I don't go back to. No, there's no places I wouldn't go try to go back out to.
Is there any experiences that you had? I mean, you've had a lot of life experience, and being in the military for as long as you were, you've seen a lot of things, I have no doubt, right? But is there anything that really like surprised you or shocked you that you saw?
We were with my family over at Jupiter Lighthouse in Jupiter.
Ooh.
And we had gone up to the top, and my wife's mom couldn't go up because of her knees and stuff. So she said, "I'm going to sit it out. You guys go to the top." Well, we got up to the top, and all of a sudden we heard somebody coming up the stairs. So I look over thinking it's my wife's mom coming up. And I look over and she's still sitting at the bench at the bottom. And I said, "Well, who is that?" And I'll go in there and I look, and my kids and are looking in there. We can't see anything, but you can hear something coming up the stairs. So I said, I'm going to go on down there and check this out. So I got to find it. It's got to be a logical explanation why it's doing this. It's a wind. There's a wind. I got to go, because my kids were getting spooked. Oh, I think it's a ghost. Well, I'm going to go down and find out what it is. I go all the way down, I'll go down and stuff. And the noise stopped. Whatever was coming up the stairs stopped. And I got all the way to the bottom, and I'm looking at the windows, pushing on the windows and all that. And as I got down to the bottom, my kids go, "We can hear it coming back up again." And I look up, I could hear it. So I go running back up there. Well, I should say I tried to go run up. I got a little tired going up those stairs.
That's a lot of stairs.
I think I got a little ways, and then all of a sudden it was walking and trying to get up there. But my kids said they could hear it come all the way to the top, and it stopped. They didn't want to. In fact, I got up there, and they said, "I don't know if I want to go down the stairs." I said, "Well, what choice do you have? This is the only way to the top of this line."
It's the fast way down, but you ain't gonna walk away from that.
And they said, "Well, you lead the way," and they did. They pretty much were right behind me, going all the way down the stairs. They were scared.
Yeah, I know. A lot of people talk St. Augustine Lighthouse. I always say Jupiter Inlet Lighthouse. Man, that thing is.
Yeah, and we got over the gift shop, and I went up because my kids don't get something, and I said, "Is this place by chance haunted?" And the guy in the store, behind the cash register, goes, "Well, yeah, we've heard some stuff." I said, because we heard something coming up the stairs. He goes, "Oh, you heard it?" He goes, "Yeah, we've had some people." I said, "We don't go jumping around, telling people a lot of that, but yeah, we've had people see a person at the top." And, like you just said, we've heard people coming up this, people have heard somebody coming up the stairs. And I said, wow, that was really, and it was, because my kids said they could hear me coming up the stairs, and it was the same noise as what we heard coming up. So, and again, there was no wind or anything. Everything was closed up in there. And the fact that the noise had stopped for a while when I was on my way down. So, that was probably my neatest paranormal experience I think I've had, where we couldn't explain what it was. And I wasn't the only one that heard it,
Right, multiple witnesses.
So look, we've got a travels for our travelers this episode, Mark.
Yeah, we got the Wonder House. You can visit, and then you can also go down to Jupiter Inlet. And not too far from Jupiter Inlet, it's Trapper Nelson's Island, which we've discussed. And right across the way is the Devil's Tree, Port St. Lucie. So.
Yes, the Devil's Tree. I've been there years and years ago when I read Charlie's book.
Oh yeah, because Charlie was the one who brought that one to everybody's attention. So.
Oh yeah, Charlie, I grabbed his book, and then I went out. So a couple places got torn down when I got out there to find out, and it was torn down because of his book too.
Yeah, the Pope Ash School, a couple other places.
They had all of a sudden his book, and everybody wanted to come out there and said, "Oh, good excuse to tear the place down." So it's a shame, but it does happen.
Well, it's happened. One of my places has been bulldozed, so it happens.
But there's still plenty of places out there. Florida, I always call Florida one of the best states to go legend trip. We have the cryptids, we have the Skunk Ape, we have St. John's River Monster,
Pinky,
which is also the Lake Monroe, which
goes all the way down.
People realize how huge Lake Monroe is. We have numerous places that are haunted, all the way down to the Keys, all the way up. There's parts of NASA. Buried treasure. Florida, I think, is the #1 state that has the most buried treasures still out there. And we have the Spook Hill, the Gravity Hill over Spook Hill, which is not too far from where I live. What else do we have? UFOs. Oh my gosh, get me going on UFOs. The Gulf Priest sightings. I mean,
Yeah.
like I said, that's one neat thing about living in Florida. You have it all.
Guess
all
what
there.
we have now, Mark?
What?
Shameless self-promotion time.
Oh yeah. So Robert, where can folks find you if they need some instructions on legend tripping, or if they want to report to you something that you know might be worth a legend trip? Where do they get in touch with you?
Well, I am very active on Facebook. I have the International Legend Tripper. I go every morning and I get on the internet and I go look for articles that catch my interest and I repost. My books are available on Amazon and at my publisher, Adventures Unlimited Press. Both I have Legend Tripping and International Legend Tripping. Again, they're guidebooks that tell you everything you need to know. In fact, Doug Hychek, the gentleman who produced and directed Monster Quest, when I sent him a book, he said, "Man, you did not leave any stones unturned on there." I mean, I was impressed how much you put into this book. I mean, you answered every question that a person needs to know when they go out and look for this thing. Everything from where to go, where to look on the internet, safety. I love how you hit safety as an important factor out there. They are illustrated. I was lucky enough to have some people. Ripley's allowed me to use pictures for free, which I really thought I was going to end up having to pay for that. Let me see. That's about it I can think of. I haven't had anybody approach me and not enjoy the book.
Very cool. We were sharing the links in our podcast notes for our travelers. So how to gear up properly and go in search of legends. Did you hear what I said? In search of legends?
I like that. Yeah, that was well done. Well played. Well played, Erika.
Thank you. Thank you. Robert, it was amazing meeting you.
Yeah, it was nice meeting you too.
It was a lot of fun, as always, Robert. And folks, you can send us listener questions and such at Erie Travels. And if you have a sighting you want to report, you can send it to me. And if you would like me to forward it on to somebody like Robert or something like that, please put in your notes. Hey, can we find a team? Can you find somebody interested in helping? And we were happy to forward on to these people. But with that, Erika, I think we are at the end, right?
We are at the end, but it was wonderful having you on, and we'll definitely have to have you on again in the future. This has been fun.
And I'd love to come back on again. I had a good time tonight.
Good. Most assuredly we'll have you back. And so for those of you travelers at home, we've got your places to visit. Go pick up Robert's books and and learn how to do it properly. And with that, gang, be careful while you're out there. Keep your eyes open. Make sure you charge your phone, charge your flashlight, and don't go running into swamps unprepared. And with that, we'll see you on the other side.